President Juncker and the European Commission condemn this attack in the strongest terms possible. The right of a journalist to investigate, ask uncomfortable questions, and report effectively is at the heart of our values and needs to be guaranteed at all times.
Anti-corruption blogger and journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia challenged the highest echelons of power on the island nation of Malta. Her final blog post warned, "There are crooks everywhere. The situation is desperate." 30 minutes after posting those words, Galizia was killed. A bomb planted in her car detonated as she drove just a short distance from her home on Monday. She was best known for publishing reports that linked the Prime Minister to the Panama Papers, those leaked documents that exposed the offshore accounts of the rich and powerful around the world. Hours after that bomb took her life, Galizia's son said, "My mother was assassinated because she stood between the rule of law and those who sought to violate it." Well, joining me now from Valletta in Malta is Andrew Borg Cardona. He is a lawyer and a close friend of Daphne Caruana Galizia's family. He's also a vocal protester against government corruption. Thank you so much for joining us. I will let you begin with telling us what you think Malta and the world has just lost.
I think we've lost, well, Malta definitely has lost one of the best investigative journalists we've ever had. Some actually say that she was the only investigative journalist we ever had. There are others who work full-time for the media who do investigate stories, but it has to be remembered that Daphne was virtually writing this blog as a one-woman, one-person effort, and it wasn't even at all her main job. She was a publisher of magazines relating to food and lifestyle. That is where, if you want to put it this way, she paid the rent. The blog was simply her own personal protest against the violators of the rule of law, and she's been going at it for many years now, as her son pointed out.
Now,
that is Daphne Caruana Galizia. What the world has lost is somebody like that.
Okay.
Malta has lost our only one.
Now, you are one of the many people who respected and admired her work, but you are aware that some say she was as despised as she was adored. Some of her writings were actually described as personal and unfounded attacks. Opposition leader Adrian Delia even said her work amounted to a purely personal and manipulative attack on his family and on him. Help us understand how she was so controversial.
Well, what Adrian Delia decided to say and think is, of course, up to him. I'm not aware that you're interviewing him. He can stand up for himself or not. I happen to disagree with his characterization. Caruana Galizia's writing about him was factual. It was, to an extent, based on truth as she knew it. Again, I'm not here to pass judgment on anybody. Caruana Galizia held herself to the highest of high standards of integrity and professionalism, and she expected everybody else, whether they're politicians, day-to-day lawyers, to use my own profession, or anyone else, she expected them to behave in the same way she expected herself to behave. That is, professionally and with integrity.
Then you believe
anybody who failed to go that way.
Then you believe her arrest back in 2013 was also quite unjust?
Oh, yes, of course it was. I was at the police station where she was being held because I found out about it and went off there. I'm a family friend. I'm a law partner with her husband. It was totally ridiculous in 2013, but that is a very minor incident compared to others we've had in this country. She was arrested, if you must know, for spreading an opinion in the silent day before a general election. In 2013, when the internet was open to everybody and everybody was doing precisely as they wished. It was the other side of ridiculous. Anyway,
okay.
I don't think that's what we're here to talk
about.
Well,
let's move on then, because while we've been reporting about her investigation of the Panama Papers and how they implicated very powerful politicians, particularly in Malta, she'd also made a number of enemies among those with links to organized crime, and many actually suspect now that only the mafia could have executed this kind of attack. Do you share that opinion? And if so, do you fear that her killers may not be brought to justice?
I am quite convinced that her killers will never be brought to justice. The person or persons who manufactured the bomb and who actually pressed the button might someday be found in a pool of blood somewhere, and some story will be built up by whoever about who they were and what they did. But you use the word mafia. Mafia is not a single entity. Mafia is a catch-all phrase that we journalists, I used to be a journalist myself or a column writer, use to describe the people behind massive corruption which reaches everywhere within the state, within society. It could have been the mafia, it could have been the Ndrangheta, it could have been anybody, it could have been the Chinese tongs. Come on, let's not lose ourselves in descriptions. Yes, Daphne Caruana Galizia must have made enemies amongst the powerful money launderers, amongst the powerful drug dealers, and within the criminal world, because she linked many of their activities with the corruption that she was busy fighting, trying to fight in Maltese society.
Are you pleased?
It was, if you want to call it the mafia, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Organized crime.
I interrupted you. Yes, sorry.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's a very complex topic there. But let me ask then if you are at least pleased that the FBI has taken charge of this investigation.
Let me first query whether the FBI has taken charge of the investigation. As far as I know, the investigation is still being run by the Maltese judicial and investigative authorities. I'm confident that the criminal investigation department within the police has got very skillful investigators. Obviously, we're a small country with limited resources, so the help that an organization like the FBI or the Dutch investigative authorities can give would be most welcome. Many people, however, are querying why, given the very great resemblance that this method of assassination has with the assassination of Falcone and Borsellino in Palermo in the mid-90s, why the Digos, the Italian or Sicilian authorities, were not asked to help. They're only half an hour away from us. The FBI haven't even arrived yet. But still, far be it from me to question what methods our government tends to use, but many people, myself included, are wondering, why the FBI? Is this simply because so many Maltese watch American television and might think that the FBI are something special? Frankly, I don't think they're any more special than the Digos, the Italians, or even the special branch, who are 3 hours away from us.
Right now, the opposition leader, again, Adrian Delia, who is not necessarily a fan of Daphne Caruana Galizia, he nonetheless is calling on the Prime Minister to resign at this point, because he said it's the Prime Minister's fault for really dismantling the police force and making criminals feel more comfortable putting bombs under cars. Do you think he has a point there?
Well, yes, he has a point. Whether he's made it correctly at the right time is not for me to judge. I'm not a political commentator anymore. I used to be, in another life, if you like. Yes, the buck stops with the Prime Minister. The buck also stops with the Minister for Police for allowing the police force to become what many people perceive it to have become. It's a point that had to be made. Maybe it was made too early, politically speaking, or not. I'm not going to judge. But yes, the buck does stop with the Prime Minister. Joseph Muscat has been Prime Minister of Malta now for virtually 5 years. And the build-up of laissez-faire, not in the good sense, do what you like, you're not going to get caught. If you get caught, you'll be able to sort your way out of it, has been astronomical. This is the atmosphere, the environment that unfortunately has become prevalent over Malta.
Okay. Andrew Borg Cardona, unfortunately we will have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us from Valletta.